My name is Sean Ray. From the time I was a child, I grew up with a very young mother, young teenage mother. I was extremely rebellious. I had no father. My mother left my father when I was about 2 years old. Without having a father in my life, it was extremely tough for me emotionally. I had a hard time dealing with things, therefore I took it out on everybody. It brought a lot of hard times with me and my mother. With my mother being so young, she had to work like 2 to 3 jobs just to help support us as a family. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters that I took care of most of the time while my mom was off doing her thing. By the time I was about 10 years old, I went and stayed with my grandparents, and my grandparents helped raise me from the time I was about 10 to 11 years old. In that time, I went to church with my grandmother. My grandmother lived her life sold out for Jesus Christ, and with that being said, she instilled those beliefs into my life from the time that I was a baby. She was my prayer warrior in my life. She was the one that kind of helped guide me through life and a lot of the things that I was dealing with emotionally. By the time I was 11 years old, I left my grandma's to live back with my mom again, and that's kind of where things started. By the time I was 12, I was already out on the streets, getting kicked out of my house because I wouldn't listen to my mother. There were, guys that would come in and out the house that it would frustrate me, and it would make me really upset because they weren't my father, and all I ever wanted in my life was my real father. Therefore, the streets became my dad. And when I got heavy into the streets, I became affiliated with a gang out of Chicago called the Satan Disciples. The Satan Disciples, the SDs, they helped me grow up. They helped me become a man. They guided me, and they came alongside me, took me under their wing, and showed me what it meant to be a man. And nobody could tell me anything at that point. I started going to prison. I went to prison first time at 17 years old. From 17 until about the age of 25, I was dealing with, in and out of prison. I was heavily active in the streets. So with the streets and with some of the things that I had to do to be affiliated with the gang I was affiliated with, I did drugs. I used heroin to help cover up a lot of the emotional things that I had to deal with my father, on top of the things that I had to do on the streets in order to get the credibility that I felt like I needed to survive. I just dug myself deeper and deeper and deeper into Satan's pit. I had landed in Camden, New Jersey. My grandmother had passed away. She was the one person that ever showed me what it meant to love in my life, because all the other love I seen came from the streets, and that's not real love. That was never real love, but that was the kind of love that I had received outside of my grandmother. When she passed away in 2011, I got addicted to shooting heroin. At that point, it led me to Camden, New Jersey. I was in an abandoned building. I was at the end of myself. I was speedballing now. And I was crying out to God right before I was about to get high. And I said, God, if you're the God that my grandmother said that you are, if you're the God that saves lives, if you're the God that can come in and change everything that I got going on in my life, then you'll help me survive today, Lord, because I just want to die. And I had never gotten to a point into my life to where I felt like I wanted to commit suicide, but at this particular time I did, and that was August of 2015. I stepped out of that abandoned building, and I was walking down the street to walk to the bus stop, and I look over, and in the middle of the hood right there was a little ministry of maybe 5 or 6 people standing there, and what looked like the pastor of the ministry came running out to me and stopped me in the middle of the road, and he convinced me to come over and talk to him, so I did, and I walk over, and next thing you know, I'm in the middle of a circle of people laying hands on me, praying for me. At this point, the drugs had kicked in, so I was just so high, I really didn't feel anything. But I didn't know at that point that God was about to change my life. The pastor of that ministry ended up taking me back to my great-grandmother's house where I was staying. And my aunt was there, and she was extremely upset because she knew where I was at, what I was doing. And I was crying at that point. I just wanted to change. I just wanted my life to be different. I didn't want to deal with the things that I was dealing with anymore, and life had taken its final toll on me. I was crying to God nonstop. I didn't know if he was even real at that point because of how bad my life had turned out to be. But I knew that something had to give. It's hard to find help out there on the East Coast, but I had my uncle who had came to me, and mentioned to me that he had a friend that he worked with who had a son who went to a discipleship program called U-Turn for Christ. So I went through, got online, and I looked and found that they had one in Colorado Springs. And since I had been here one time before and I loved it here, I decided that, well, yeah, I wanted to give that a try. And 2 days later, I was on a bus to Colorado Springs to U-Turn for Christ, and I never looked back. I still continued to rebel when I got here because that's all I ever knew how to do. That's what ever sustained me out there on the streets is taking advantage of people, places, and things. And so I found myself lost even after I got here. And I cried out to the Lord again. I said, Lord, I know you're real. I know you are the God you said you are. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, for the first time I'd slowed my life down enough to let these things catch up to me, and I started dealing with a lot of PTSD and a lot of aftermath of the life that I had lived. Emotionally, I went right back into that pit again, and I was lost all over again. And I had told my wife this, and you know, I wasn't sure how I was going to go about dealing with this. And because I have the amazing wife and the amazing church family that I have today, they were able to pray for me and help me out through that situation and through that oppression. And with that being said, the Lord dealt with me in an area that I had been covering up my entire life. And I came into full submission to the Lord's will for my life. I no longer felt like I wanted to run from what He was calling me to do. And I felt like in order for me to actually gain any ground in the life that I live while I'm still here, I had to fully submit myself to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Since I've completely submitted my life to the Lord, He's taken me places that I never thought I would ever go. He's mended relationships in my family and in my friendships that I never thought would ever be mended. And He put a life together for me that I never thought that I would ever be able to live. And with that being said, I owe nothing but the rest of my life while I'm here on this earth to Jesus Christ. And I thank Him every single day I wake up, every single day that I get to breathe. I thank Him for still being here and being in my life and carrying me through to this point and taking me to a place that I still don't even know where He's taking me. But I know that with Him, it doesn't matter where I'm going. He's got me no matter what.